everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Two Winning Guys Soccer Show, Lower League Shorts. I'm your host and humble correspondent, the pretty one, Chelsea Mike Shostak. I hope everybody is enjoying their summer break from football, even though our weekend mornings here in the States are way less interesting. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Cut my grass? Clean my bathroom? Connect with my friends and family? I don't even know how to do that stuff. Well, no worries, because we're under 1 month away from the Charity Shield. And from there, we'll be heading into some exciting league action, and then it will lead up to the World Cup in Qatar in November. So soccer season's right around the corner, kids. We're coming back. I wanted to pop in for two reasons, though. First, I've been a little bit lazy about doing our last four triumphs of the 2021-22 season. 4 teams have been promoted, and darn it, they deserve a celebration. But more importantly, I wanted to update everyone on the situation in Derby County. We've had a lot of news pertaining to the club, and as of 6 p.m. British time today, on Friday, July 1st, we do officially have a new owner. I wanted to update you on everything that's been involved in the situation there, but I also wanted to provide a little bit of commentary, because what's happening at Derby County right now cannot and should not be allowed to happen ever again. So just to catch you up, as we'd covered on our last main show, American Chris Kirschner's bid was falling apart over what he begged off as international banking regulations. Now, the extent of what sort of regulations got in the way is unknown, but if there was any red tape, it appears that it was on the American end, in that the regulators were holding up money for potential money laundering. That's shady. And frankly, Derby's administrators and the EFL had plenty of opportunities to avoid that outcome. Kirchner had been trying to buy a club for well over a year. And if there was even the slightest hint that Chris Kirchner's money could be tied up for whatever reason, they could have had him move the money to the UK well in advance of him purchasing any club. Again, my opinion on the topic is Chris Kirchner is an untrustworthy human being who's on the hook for not paying his debts in the States and is now balked on buying 2 lower league clubs. And at the end of the day, he had no valid excuse for not being able to complete the transaction with Derby County, if you take what he said at face value. And both the league and Derby's administrators got played. There's no doubt about that. While Kirchner himself took out a very expensive advertisement as to why you should never do business with him. However, since then, optimism has returned to Derby in the form of local businessman David Klaus. A few weeks ago, Klaus was named the preferred bidder on the team, and it seems like it's a great fit. He is from Derbyshire. He has deep connections to the region and to the team, and so his motivation in all of this is pretty clear. He himself is also a pretty interesting cat. Yeah, in addition to being the chairman of a property development corporation that bears his name, that's made him rich, he's also a licensed pilot and used to fly for a regional airline. He's actually certified to fly 737s. But his personality aside, his net worth was recently pegged at over £250 million. So reasonably, everyone involved could have been convinced that he has or had the cash to complete the deal. Easy breezy, right? And hey, even easier because just last week, Klaus bought the holding company that owns Pride Park. Team, stadium, back together under one roof. Glad we can get a happy resolution to this very difficult situation. Good times. But I'm being a little sarcastic here because fortunately, while the saga is over, you see with Derby, it's always more complicated than that. Last week came the news that Derby football fans just simply didn't want to hear. Wayne Rooney and the manager and the captain of the ship, who guided them through a pretty thrilling season, despite having been docked 21 points over financial irregularities, resigned. Rooney's been pretty silent about his reasons for leaving, saying it was the toughest decision he ever had to make, and that the administrators tried unsuccessfully to get him to stay. We'll never know exactly what happened there, but either way, the team's named assistant manager Liam Rossignol as the interim manager. And, well, that really couldn't come soon enough because Derby are scheduled to play their first preseason match in just 10 days. And, well, they only have 5 players. But the Rooney drama within the situation is not strictly limited to him coaching the team or leaving the club. When news came out that the Kirchner bid was failing, it was also revealed that May's wages were paid by someone close to the club, which I speculated on here was Wayne Rooney. But it turns out it was actually Rooney's agent, Paul Stetford, and his firm who paid £1.6 million to help keep the club afloat while the Kirchner deal was slipping away. It seems as though Stretford's company treated the payment as a loan to Kirchner, so good luck getting that back. But there are other implications. So if that payment to players happened late, Derby could be docked 3 points next year in their League One season, and if an investigation finds that there was any impropriety in those payments, it'll be 12 more points. It seems unlikely, but Derby, with their fan base, they should rightfully be fearful of the worst. However, there is something revealing in this, namely how much Rooney himself invested personally into keeping Derby County around. But it also reveals just how close Derby were to failing. I mean, they were right about done. The deal with Clowes was supposed to have been completed by Wednesday, and it just finally got finished today. And while the details on what held up the proceedings was, as it was with Kirchner, remarkably scant, what we do know is, once again, the delay was blamed on the complexity of the financial situation with Derby County's books. So let me begin my editorial this way. First, I understand that this is a lower league podcast and that I care more than most people in the world about the situation in Derby. However, in a British sports media culture where I get daily updates about how Chelsea are going to sign half the Brazilian national team, along with any player wherever they are in the world who's valued over £50 million, I'd love to know why inquisitive reporters couldn't get more out of anyone involved with the situation than there's been a delay. Well, what is the delay? And why don't we have more details about it? The fans of Derby County throughout this process have deserved better. And the biggest outlet with this, Derbyshire Live and the Derby Telegraph, they're modest news organizations. I'm not blaming them. I'm wondering why the big guys, the Skies, the BBCs, didn't take this more seriously, and why their stories on it were just blindly reprinting the press releases coming out from the people in the know who had, who were in on the situation. Because every delay, every failure to transfer ownership from Derby should have raised new questions. Furthermore, the evidence is beginning to point in the direction of Mel Morris having used creative accounting to get Derby into a situation where the team almost needed to be wound down and all of its debts and obligations thrown out to get the club free. The club clearly had an incredibly able and super willing buyer. He showed his intentions far enough to purchase the stadium before the club could be bought. Clowes is all in, and yet for the second time, accounting delays were preventing the sale of a club that should have happened months ago. So while I can repeat my complaints about the distinct lack of information here, let me also ask, how is it that the oversight of the EFL has been so poor as to allow one of their members' clubs books to get this bad. Like, for example, Chelsea were expressly sanctioned by the British government, yet were still able to complete their sale transaction in around 3 months. The UK government had a say, and it still got done. So where is the answer to that question? Who's watching all of this? Look, in this whole process, I'm making a lot of assumptions because in the absence of good information, we'll always be left to fill in our own blanks. And my thoughts, which are no more informed than anyone else who can read the news, is that Mel Morris's unregulated decisions, driven, by the way, by the best possible motivations to return his team to the top flight, have instead taken them down to League One and will persist in creating a situation where one of the most storied teams in league history, one of the original professional sides of the league, will struggle financially. And if the books are too complicated for forensic accountants to figure out, then the league should have stepped in way earlier than they did to stop it before it got this bad. The warning signs were there. Wickham were sending them up years ago. The failures here are too many to peg to any one group or individual. But we in the football-loving public, and especially the lifelong supporters of this historic side, deserve better answers. And every member team of the EFL needs more confidence that the sides they're playing against aren't secretly bleeding cash in an attempt to best them in the table. In short, change is needed. Yes, we need some better journalism, okay. But more than that, this should be yet another warning that if the EFL does not improve its oversight, we will see this again and again. And as we saw it with Bury, a team that doesn't have that sort of fan base, and as the appeal of purchasing these lower league sides are going to drive up their prices, and with it the need to win, the EFL has got to change to adopt more preemptive oversights over its member clubs. Without change, we will see the situation in Derby repeated over and over. And it could be your side next, even if you're a big boy. Trust me, I saw how quickly things can change with my side, Chelsea. All right, well, I've done enough spitting fire for one day, so let's change gears here and focus on some of the teams who did rise this year. Let's celebrate their accomplishments, their triumphs, and let's officially put an end to the 2021-2022 lower league season. So let's get the music going. We'll load it up here.
Sorry, everybody. We had a little technical problem there, but let's get the music going. Let's do some triumphs. Here we go. Let's get started with two of our Wembley winners. And of course, we begin with our League Two playoff champions, Port Vale, newest side to join League One. And what an apropos team to begin with, as Port Vale literally invented lower league football. Sort of. Port Vale were founder members of the Football League's second division way back in 1892. And here may be some hope for even the most cynical Derby supporter. While they left the league on and off during those early years, and they were actually forced to liquidate back in 1907, but the supporters carried on the side, and by the resumption of football after World War I, they were back in the league and have not left since. Port Vale have never made the top flight. They've never even sniffed it, really. And by the early 2000s, they went into administration twice. But what bad men have destroyed, it takes a good woman to fix. Isn't that right? You see, Port Vale is one of the very few clubs owned by a woman. And when she rescued them from oblivion in 2019, she admitted she overpaid for the team. But she just wanted to keep Port Vale alive. When the pandemic struck, Vale were denied a chance at promotion by Carol Shanahan's own vote. When the owner stated she did it for the good of the gang. Well, karma is not a bitch for you this time. This season, you sniffed the automatic promotion places. You were mid-table. But at the end of the 21-22 season, you stood atop the podium at Wembley. Port Vale, congratulations. You are the 24th and final League One side in 2022. Good luck to you. We hope that your march to your elusive top tier has only begun. And on the topic of top tier, let's give props to that side whose 20 plus years of frustration in the lower leagues has finally come to an end. That's right, our winners of the world's richest game, our once and future Premier League side, the two-time champions of Europe even. Let's give it up for the return of Nottingham Forest to the top flight of English football. Ladies and gentlemen, you want to talk about a triumph. At the beginning of the year, Forest were in the relegation zone, leading to the sacking of your manager. But in comes Steve Cooper and up goes Forest. They battled their way up through the table, had a great FA Cup run, and were even sniffing automatic promotion until the final week of the season. Forest, your team has more European Cups than Arsenal, Tottenham, and Manchester City combined. Because combined, they have 0. And you have 2. In fact, outside of Chelsea, Man U, and Liverpool, you have more European Cups than all of England combined. So is it your destiny to get back amongst the European places in the Premier League? We don't know. But you're not likely to go to Europe if you're not in the top flight. And now, after waiting for so long, you have returned. Congratulations to Forest and their long beleaguered fans. We don't want to see you back on this lower league report anytime soon. All right, well, shifting gears and keeping the triumphs rolling, because as sure as 2 teams leave the league every year, 2 teams are also promoted from Tier 5, the confusingly named National League. And this year, they'll be playing in League 2. So let's start with our National League champions and automatic promotion winner, Stockport County FC. Stockport have been around forever, and for almost 100 consecutive years, they were members of the Football League. But if you haven't been following lower league football for a long time, you won't remember them. You see, they've never been in the top tier of English football. But their story, it gets even sadder than that. You see, the story is as old as lower league football. In the late aughts, they went into administration. And despite having recently won a League 2 playoff, they dropped back down to League 2. And then, of course, their new ownership didn't deliver on their new promises. And then they dropped again, this time out of the league. And then they dropped again to the Conference North in the 6th tier of English football. During this time, they were forced to use part-time players. But you came back. In 1819, you won that Conference North. And now, in 21-22, Stockport, you won the National League, and you know what? You're back, baby. Welcome back to the EFL, you Hatters. We hope you'll stay with us on the Lower League podcast all the way up until you get to your top flight. Well, and then finally, in a season filled with intense drama, we have far and away the most dramatic return to the league that one could possibly even ask for. Yes, let's give it up for those Fighting Mariners of Grimsby Town, who were relegated just 1 year ago, but have clawed their way back into the league straight away. Grimsby are another of those long-tenured league sides who found hard times in the early part of this millennium, although not nearly to the extent of Stockport. But they have bounced up and down, in and out of the league. However, this year, Grimsby simply would not be denied. As the 6th place side, in the National League, you have to play an extra round in the playoffs, and all hope seemed lost. Trailing by 1 in the 96th minute, they improbably equalized, and then they nabbed the winner in the 119th. But no, Grimsby, that was not the only time you were forced to win in extra time, was it? No, you did so in all 3 of your playoff games. And you were able to successfully put the ball into the net in all 3 of those extra times, avoiding those dreaded shootouts. And those shootouts are dreaded, aren't they? Stupid Liverpool, 2 kicks away from no trophies. Alright, sorry, I digress. You beat Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney's Wrexham side, who had finished second in the league, also in the 119th minute. Then, when you got to the playoff final at the London Stadium, you got the Solihull Moors in the 111th. What an awesome run for you, Grimsby Town. Welcome back to your lower league podcast. And this time, we hope you'll be able to stick around. All right, everybody. Well, that's all I've got for the lower league report today. I'll be back later in the month to highlight any interesting transfer moves I'm seeing in the lower leagues, or if any big clubs are loaning great young players down to teams in step 2, 3, and 4 of the English football pyramid. But for now, goodbye, and we'll try to do better next time.